The Edible Bean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Hensel Co-op.
Hi, I'm Bernard Taube and welcome to the Edible Bean School. Today I'm at Elora, Ontario at the Elora Research Station catching up with Mike Cowbrough, O'Maffer's weed specialist. Mike, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Nice to see you, Bern.
Well, I know. Hey, you been busy?
Yeah, been busy. Lots of weeds growing. It's a good time of year.
And planting is rolling on really quickly now, and we're going to be moving in to edible beans in the weeks ahead here. When it comes to weed management, controlling nightshade is critical in edible beans. Those berries that the plant produces can cause staining, mud tagging, and even gum up the cleaning equipment at the processing plant. Mike, when it comes to edible beans and nightshade, what strategy should growers be looking at? How should they tackle this weed?
I think it starts with field history first, Bern. Like if you have a history in a field of moderate to high nightshade pressure, I would strongly discourage you from growing dry beans there in the first place because we have limited tools to manage those. We need everything to be working correctly, and the idea of having no nightshade in those fields is pretty difficult. So I think what we'll talk about is from like field histories where it's maybe low to sporadic, and best management practices around that. Like that's kind of the first piece of information is what is the field history? If it's low, we can manage it, let's do that. The second key piece of information is in the province, any nightshade that's been tested for herbicide resistance, about 75% of it is resistant to pursuit. And so if you're using pursuit in a weed management program in dry beans, which is a foundational program, you can't expect it to offer anything in terms of nightshade control. So we're limited in what we can use, but there's some things we can do to make it work as best it can.
Yeah. Now you talk, basically a two-pass program here. Talk PPI. What do we need to do when we're going, with a soil-applied herbicide?
Yeah, so when I speak to dry bean growers that have been around for a while and do a good job of managing weeds, and let's just be up front too, every dry bean grower struggles with weed management. It's the most difficult thing, but in general, two pass programs, soil applied program, and then followed up with a post-emergent program. The key in the soil applied program is let's not skimp on rates and what we need to do the job. You're not going to, saving a few nickels in the soil applied program isn't worth it, right? So that's the key thing. And so let's just be very specific in granular burn. Like nightshade, you're down to dual and frontier as options that control that species. To minimize the risk of crop injury, we need to pre-plant incorporate both of those products. Unfortunately, that might lower our nightshade control a little bit. So we make sure that our rates are high, we're PPIing to maximize crop safety because that's the lesser of two evils. And then the key thing is after those programs go down, we need to be scouting probably 2 weeks after application, almost every few days to see if we get little seedlings coming up. Because once seedlings come out of the ground, we have one option to manage nightshade. It's a product called Reflex, and the window of application is 2 to 4 leaf stage nightshade. So that's smaller than a quarter, and the window is super tight. So we need to be on that. And then high water volume, not skimping on rate, not skimping on adjuvant, and doing the job right there. Because
one of the things, you see a lot of late emergence with this weed, and that's the trouble. You run into trouble with that window, right?
And there's only really so much that you can do. Like our experience in either IP soybean trials or dry bean trials is you might get 4 or 5 weeks of your soil applied herbicide. The post-emergent herbicide will deal with what's up, but it doesn't have residual activity. So it's not uncommon that in August, small seed Eastern Black Nightshade doesn't take much moisture to germinate. You'll see some flushes coming up in August. Nothing you can do about that with herbicides in that growing crop.
What about pre-harvest now and managing that harvest? If we've got some berries, what's happening?
Well, I like to keep my expectations super low there, Bern, because I've kept a nightshade plant with full berries in my vehicle throughout the winter speaking circuit to see if I could drop berries off that, and come March I still had berries on it. So things like Aragon, a common desiccant in dry beans, does it drop berries? For sure. It just doesn't drop them all. So it's a tool to lower the risk, but it doesn't eliminate the risk of staining and all that comes with nightshade.
Last point, some long-term management, some other sort of strategies. you like to think about cereal rye when you're managing Nightshade.
Well, and it's just not me. When I've talked to some of these growers that are trying to find any edge they can to improve weed management in dry beans, there's a small percentage of them that are incorporating winter covers like cereal rye to lower the amount of weeds recruiting in a field to begin with, and then creating an inhospitable environment for seed production, all that stuff. So they're finding that it takes the pressure off, the soil applied herbicide, lowers populations. It's a win-win. You know, it requires some experience to work it into the system, but that's the one thing I think we could do fairly easily, and it would have some positive outcomes.
Right. Hey, some great insights, Mike. I always appreciate you stopping by. Always great to have you on Real Agriculture.
Thanks for having me, Bern.